Hey folks, today is an AMA, but we're going to use it for today's Daily Pause because it's a perfect continuation of the Daily Pause we've been doing this week so far. Because we've been talking about the idea of now it's summertime and your kids are home all day when they're not at camp and you want them to do something besides just consume every digital content they can. So you want them to do their chores, which is great. Here's the difficulty is we far too often take the responsibility for getting our kids to do their chores. And that's the biggest mistake because we think it's my job to get them to do their chores because they don't want to do the chores. I want them to do their chores, so I've got to come up with a way to get them to do their chores. This makes perfect sense until you actually put it into reality. And then when it's your job to get them to do it, then guess whose job is to, well, that's a bad way of saying it. If it's your job to get them to do it, then it's not their job to get themselves to do it. Then that's the whole problem. Because what you want is not just for the dishes to be done. What you want is for them to want to do the dishes. You want them to spontaneously on their own take more responsibility for putting in their, or pulling their weight around the house, doing what they need to do to help you guys function as a family. So, in response to that email chain the last 2 days, we got this question. So, what about being responsible for getting my kids to do their homework? They can't possibly understand right now that the choices they make around schoolwork will affect their future and their entire life. To make them face the consequence of not getting into a good school or having poor job choices as an adult seems like an unfair consequence. I feel that I am responsible for getting my kids to do their homework. All right. First of all, there's a couple of things here. Yes, the consequences of not doing your homework are incredibly dire, right? Severe. We want them to do their homework, and so we're going to create a structure that helps them do just that. But learning to pick up after themselves, I could see as being equally as important. Learning to function as a team in a community where everybody's teamwork affects everybody else's is a vital part of living in society as well. So in reality, I don't see any difference between getting our kids to do their chores or getting our kids to do their homework. It's still, neither one is our job. Because as long as it's our job to get them to do it, then they're never gonna have to get themselves to do it. And so whenever I see a question like this, I totally get it because we don't want them to ruin their whole lives by giving them way too much power over their lives right now. That's not what we're talking about. See, my question is always, if it's my job to get my kids to do their homework, fine. Until when? When is it their job to get themselves to do their homework? And what plan do you have to get them there? What plan do you have to help them learn to take full responsibility for it so that you don't have to remind them, you don't have to reward them, you don't have to punish them when they don't do it because there are already built-in consequences that matter more to them than whatever you could do to them. See, if we start with the assumption that they don't want to do their homework, then we're going to have to try and get them to it. And so we're going to reward them or we're going to punish them and try to goad them to it. Meanwhile, we're working harder on their homework than they are. Some of you have been in this situation. Most of us have been near it, at the very least, and it's exhausting, and it's not what anybody wants. What you are not is responsible for getting them to do their homework. You are, however, responsible to them for the structure you're going to put around that. And you may think that's semantics. It is not. You are not responsible for getting them to do their homework. Why? Because it has to be their choice. Can you make them do their homework? Just think about it. Can you actually make them? Most of you heard me say this before, but you can sit on them, right? And you can tape your hand to their hand with the pencil in your hand, but guess what? They wouldn't be doing their homework then. So the reality is it's their homework, and meaning it has to require their cooperation at some level. So why not just make this obvious from the beginning? It's your job whether you do your homework. It's my job to set a structure in place that encourages you to do your homework and also that offers natural consequences for you not doing your homework. So whether you do your homework, and I told this to my daughter when she was, I think, in 2nd grade, whether you do your homework is up to you. Because what I told her was, there is a structure in place tonight I think the deal was, we have dinner tonight at 6:30, so you cannot do your homework then. Well, I don't want to do my homework now. I didn't say you had to do your homework now. I just said you can't do it then. Well, I need to do my homework. Then do it. Well, I don't want to do my homework. Then don't do it. Honey, I want you to think, whether you do your homework is up to you. Now, whether I hold you to the natural logical consequences of getting bad grades, that's up to me. That's my responsibility to you, is to create a structure that affords you the chances of doing your homework by restricting times with screens on, by restricting play time, restricting time with friends, right? By setting a certain structure in place. But it's also then my responsibility to you is to give you the choice within that structure how you're going to spend that time. Now, when I restrict a lot of different distractions, then it increases the chances that they'll choose their homework. Because what I believe is they actually want to do it. They want to excel. They want to get better at things. When your kid was 3 and they drew when they were drawing a picture, did they want it to look good? When they were 5, did they want it to look better? Yes, there's a natural desire to get better at things. And so I want to tap into that desire rather than assume that desire's not there and all they want to do is watch their iPad all day and eat Cheerios and never do anything for anybody ever. And never do things for themselves that'll make themselves better. That's not true. So, set in place structure with consequences, but also with the basic belief that you believe they want to do good things. They want to do well. They want to excel. Now, when they show that they have not done their homework and there's consequences, then offer the consequences. Restrict screen time even more. Restrict free time even more. Help them set up a structure where they have to go in early for study time, before or after school. What you want to do is convey to them, it's my job to come alongside you and help you do what you already want to do, which is excel in life and gain more freedom and power. Then it's my job to help you do that. So back to the chores. It's not your job to make them do their chores. It's your job to set up a structure where you invite them towards that high level of responsibility. So, here's something to think about. What happens if they don't do their chore? Because if it's your responsibility to get them to do their chore and they don't do it, then you've got 2 choices. You punish them until they do it, which really makes you feel awful and them as well, or you come back and do it for them, which is usually what happens. So what are the natural consequences of them not doing their chore? What happens if they don't take out the trash? Well, the trash doesn't get picked up. And then what happens to the trash? It piles up. Well, if I don't want it piling up in my garage, then I will put it where it needs to go to help them realize this is what it looks like to live in a community. So there were multiple times when my kids went upstairs to find that the trash they didn't take to the curb ended up in their bed. It wasn't a mess. I had picked a nice clean trash bag, but it was still a trash bag in their bed, just to let them know. Actually, I think I did it in their bed once, but mostly I just did it right in front of their door, right? Just to say, hey, I'm gonna pick this up because I don't want it out there, but I'm not gonna put it up because that's your job. Same thing with their toys. I'll pick it up, but then I'll put it in a bag and put it out in the garage, and I would tell them, look, you've got a week to go through your stuff because I am a regular visitor to Goodwill and I will drop stuff off that apparently you don't want. This is just offering them some visibility into what life looks like when they're out on their own, because that's our job, is to prepare them for life without us when they're out on their own. So I want to create an environment where these are what needs to get done, and your job is to do it. It's your job. So you always say, I always tempted to do this, but you always say, we're not going to get a dog because you realize I'm going to have to take care of the dog. You're not going to take care of it, so we're not getting one, right? So what would happen if you didn't feed the dog? We have a dog that needs medicine. If it's somebody's job to do the medicine, guess what? The dog really freaks out and it's obvious she didn't get her medicine, and she could eventually die. So if I really want them to learn the responsibility, then I let them have the responsibility. Hey, dogs were upset. Well, I guess you should have given them medicine. I know this sounds weird, right? But it's got to be better than harping on them over and over and over again. Did you do it? Did you do it? How many times do I have to tell you to do it? Would you do it? Come on. Meaning it's still my responsibility. And guess what? As long as it's my responsibility, it will never become theirs. All right, I know that was long and rambling. Hope that was helpful. Keep sending in questions to info@screamfree.com. Comes straight to me, and reply to the Daily Pause. Talk to you next time.